Hey guys, this is Andrews with Atom Audio, and this is the second part of a multi-part series talking all about Dolby Atmos and how to install it. So today we are back in Jon Blass's studio, and we are joined today by Tony Terrebonne. He is the studio installer for this project. And Tony, before we get into much more, would you mind kind of giving a background of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Tony Terrebonne. I've been doing a lot of Atmos integration lately. I started as a recording engineer, mixing records, recording, and I worked in a really great studio called Zach Recording in Atlanta, Georgia. I was lucky to work out of one of the best sounding rooms, and when I finally got to start working in other rooms, I realized, man, some rooms don't sound as good as other rooms. I was lucky enough to learn from one of the great kind of acousticians and monitor voicing guys. His name's Coco. And yeah, just playing with speakers, tuning speakers, making sure everybody had, accurate monitoring for when they're mixing and recording.
So you've been installing studios for quite a while. What would you say your role is as a studio installer for a lot of these engineers?
I do monitor voicing and acoustic consulting. That's kind of the general role, I guess. But I have so much experience, like just about the whole process. It ends up being a little more than just that, So I do all the rigging for the speakers with the Atmos stuff and sound panels and the whole kind of studio design.
So you've been working on this install for a few days now. Can you give us an idea of the size of the room that we're in and some of the challenges that may have come across as you've been doing this whole process?
This room's 12 by 15. The important dimension is 8-foot ceilings. That one's always kind of tough, working in home style studios and mix suites. And how do we fit speakers up there and get the distances correct?
Full range speakers too.
Yeah. Right. So the first thing we had to do is deal with the cloud. He had a nice cloud over his mix position, and we took it down to start rigging the speakers, and then we're going to modify it to kind of fit it up in there. And then once you start dealing with the side speakers, dealing with some of the side panels that he has on the wall there, they kind of sit out from the wall a little bit, so we may make some modifications there and kind of just fit everything around, but it's nothing a little Home Depot run and carpentry won't fix. Yeah. It's worth taking the time and making measurements and not making compromises on the speaker placement just because there's something in the way. It's kind of like, how do we use our engineer brains to find a little solution for that.
When you first walked into this room, I guess, can you talk through the steps of how you've gotten to this point of installing the speakers? What processes have you gone through prior to this to be able to start installing them, et cetera, et cetera? Again,
I always kind of start with the stereo left and right because we have to make good decisions on our stereo mixes as well in the same room. This isn't just the Atmos room. So, I came in a week before and made sure the left and right stereo speakers were where they wanted to be in the room, which was a lot of fun. Got to learn a lot about how the atoms worked and how they responded, and we were both really surprised on a lot of those things. And then doing our measurements for all the other speakers off of that. Okay. So getting the equal, and here we're trying to do is equal distant setup versus the orthogonal speaker setup. So yeah.
Could you describe the difference between that? What is orthogonal?
Orthogonal would be a layout that's better for like a more rectangular room. Rely on delays more for timing the speakers. Where equal distance is kind of like how it sounds. We try to set everything up in an equal circle. And in some of these rooms, we kind of do a little bit of a combination of the two.
And so the next step after you got them all in place and you've done all your tuning, is Jon ready to hop in and start mixing in Dolby Atmos? Is there anything else after that?
I mean, technically, yeah, he could jump in there and start mixing, but we do a lot of listening. We listen to as many Atmos mixes, good Atmos mixes, as we can find. Stuff he's worked on, stuff that other clients of mine have worked on, and then we're very honest about, like, is this translating to the speakers? When we listen in headphones versus the speakers, what are we missing? So after we do our listening test, we can really confirm, like, okay, yeah, we did good, you know, and then, or maybe we hear like, oh man, now I really hear that reflection off of the door over there. Let's put a little panel there or something, Yeah. So we we're honest about it and we use our ears and make sure it sounds good.
Throughout this whole room, we have the A7Vs in the front, back, up, left, right, all the things. Yeah. How's your experience been working with the all-new A-Series from Atom Audio?
It's been really cool and actually really surprising. First sweep I made, I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so flat. And then I measured the next ceiling speaker and all 4 of them were so flat together. And that was a big surprise. And you know, I think in that price range, I don't think I've seen a speaker that out of 4 speakers, they were so flat.
All of these speakers by themselves are kind of relatively flat, but once you get them all 11 of them in one room, things start to be affected and go a little out of whack, and you have to start EQing things. What are some of the guidelines that you go about when EQing speakers? Do you like to cut more than boost, or does it really matter in a Dolby Atmos setting?
I think the key is not EQing too much, because a lot of, the room is going to affect the speaker a lot, and if you try to just like muscle it into submission or a flat line graph on a measurement software, you're going to start causing some issues, and it might actually sound very good. Just like when you're mixing and you've got all these plugins on a track and you're like, oh, it sounds great, and then you bypass it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh well, it sounds amazing with nothing on it. So the EQ is not there to, it's not a crutch, it's just something just a little sprinkle here or there goes a long way. And I think that's the simplest or the best approach for tuning a speaker system, especially when you have 12 or 13 or 16 speakers.
So thank you, Tony, for joining us here today and talking about how to install a Dolby Atmos system. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll be sure to answer them as quickly as possible. And stay tuned for the next video where we finish up this room and get it up and running.